What's up, guys? Dylan here, and I'm actually back home in St. Louis for Memorial Day weekend, and want to do a quick update before the weekend. I don't know how many videos I'll be able to do. I'll try to get one in per day. That's my goal, but I'm gonna do this update and talk about the FUD in the market, the anxiety levels seeming to be very high, and what I think about that, and how you should look at it. If you want my advice. So let's get into it. Like, subscribe. I'm dealing right now. I'm dealing with. I got my Band-Aid on because I'm back in St. Louis, like Nelly. No, I had like an infection on my face. It just swelled up and not fun. So I gotta show you my good side today versus my bad side. So we're on good side versus bad side. But anyways, so in the market, I don't know if you've been paying attention. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of kind of stress and FUD out there about what's going to happen, and what coins are good. I was looking at some kind of high profile influencers, and typically you gotta be careful with influencers because there's no, just because they have a lot of followers or they produce a video on something doesn't mean that they have actually good information or that what they say you should listen to, right? There's just some people on the internet too, and a lot of them just say the same things as other ones, right? It's not a lot of new information. It's not necessarily unique insights. It's just their perspective, and so you can't just take anything they say with full certainty. But what you can do is you can look at what the influencers are saying in a particular niche and get a pulse on how they're feeling about it, and then how the market might be feeling, right? Because they're a media source. So if you watch the mainstream media, you know what their feelings on or their position is on a certain topic or a certain topic, right? So you know what they you know what it is because they tell you and they show you, they have the headlines and all that stuff. And so influencers kind of do that, right? And you can kind of get a gauge by just looking at what their stuff is. So I was looking at a lot of these influencers, some on Twitter, and one guy, he does a little bit more macro, long-term technical analysis. Good channel, he's got over 400,000, maybe 600,000 followers, a ton. And he did a poll on Twitter. He's like, which way do you think Bitcoin will go? And the poll, I think 7,000 people answered, which is impressive. It's a lot of people, but it was basically 50-50 if it would go up or down. And this was yesterday. And then we had another guy who had been hating on Ethereum, and then and I don't know how serious it is, but that's the purpose of being careful about the information you receive and being very diligent about monitoring the information coming in and questioning it and really thinking for yourself and doing your own research, because I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know everything that's going on in the market, and neither does anyone else out there, right? And anyone who says that they do, they're lying to you, or they're trying to get you to believe something so they can sell you something. But anyways, he posted a screenshot of him buying a bunch of Ethereum, and he's talking about the flippening, he's just ripping on Bitcoin and all that. And so he likes to troll. So he could be trolling, he could be serious. You don't know, right? And so if you don't know that account, you see that he has a bunch of followers and he's saying these things, it's very easy to panic buy or FOMO buy in or FOMO sell, and that's exactly not what you're supposed to be doing. But he was also talking about, tethering up his stuff and then waiting for the market to decide which direction it's going to go in, and that's fair for sure. And he was saying he's trying to time it and all that, and that's going to tie into the next point. Was I listened to an interview with the Cryptos R Us guy, George, and this other guy, maybe his name is Jason, but the Cryptos R Us guy is more of a hodl, right? Be smart, do your research, but he's not a big technical analysis guy. And the other guy was day trader, technical analysis guy. And one point that got brought up in that I think is important is that the trader guy was talking about the importance of looking at charts, and he doesn't really look at news cycles and things like that. He lets the charts tell him about the market, which is really cool, and I believe that's like looking at the matrix almost. But the problem is you don't want to get a God complex and think you know everything just by looking at charts, because they're kind of guidelines, and it's really easy to do technical analysis after the fact and be like, oh, this is what it predicted, this is what it was indicating. But if you could predict the future from it, then you'd be super rich and you wouldn't be talking to people on YouTube, right? You probably wouldn't be, right? If you could always predict the future, where the market's going to go, or you had enough confidence that you can put your bets down. But it was cool to hear that concept of you can use just the way that the trend lines, the graphs, and the technical analysis is going to tell you what's going on in the market or what the market is absorbing or reacting to before you even read headlines. So you can see stuff, because it's, something he said was that, the news travels slower than the market. So it hits the market first, and then you see the headlines and things like that, or the shares on social media. And that's a valid point. So that's a +1 in the category for learning technical analysis and looking charts. And I'm probably going to study them more just because of that. But on the flip side, they were talking, and the George guy was like, he's like, I don't do a lot of technical analysis, and I think you should just stick to the funnels, the fundamentals, long-term strategy, have diamond hands, just dollar cost average in, hodl. And he's like, I heard that, one stat is that like 85% of people that do day trading lose money. So if you think that you're in the 15%, you're probably not, right? It takes a lot of time, energy, and skill to be in that 15% where you make more money overall. And those two guys in the interview had a back and forth, and basically the trader guy was like, yeah, I did the math, and in 2017, if I would have just put all my money into Bitcoin and held, then I would have made more money than I did by trading. And that George was like, oh yeah, he's like, I hear that all the time from traders. And so traders, day traders, they'll oftentimes say that, and they'll come to that conclusion that if they would just put their money in something and held it and left it there, that they would have done better, right? Than if they started trading all the day trading and trying to do all that kind of stuff. It goes to the saying is, timing the market can't beat time in the market, and it's the concept. And Tony Robbins wrote about this in his book. But the concept is just like, you can't time the market. We can't predict the future. You can't predict COVID's going to happen. You can't predict like anything, right? There's all these events that are just out of our control, and so the best thing you can do is just put your money in. Not financial advice, but put your money in over a long period of time, right? Time in the market, and you can dollar cost average in, be strategic about that method. And as you do that, as the market grows, like it'll go through dips and stuff like that. It'll go down, but it'll go back up, right? And it'll go through cycles. There'll be years where it's down, years where it's up. But if you're investing in the long term to build that asset portfolio and that wealth, you're only putting in money that you can afford to lose. Then it doesn't matter if it's down for a month or two or a year, right? Because you could afford to lose that money anyways, and you're like, I'll just wait a year, right? Future me is gonna get a Christmas present or a birthday present. 5 year down the road, Dylan's gonna get something. Your kid, your future kid is gonna have something and get something that's better off by you not taking it out and you not stressing about that, because you were strategic and you said, I'm only putting money in that I can lose, and I'm not taking on too much risk. I'm just going to leave it in. I'm going to hodl. I'm going to do that. So that was a really key important point about just timing the market's better than timing the market. And to bring that back to where we're at with all the uncertainty about where Bitcoin's going to go, the future of it, is it going to go down, right? Are we in this dead cat and bounce situation, or are we going to go up? And what's happening is it freezes people. There's the fear responses. There's fight, flight, and freeze. Okay. And what some people do, they'll flight, so they'll sell off all their things because they're too stressed, they're worried. Some people will fight, they'll buy, and then it's to some degree. And then other people will freeze, right? They won't do anything, and that can be good and bad. So I guess the question you have to ask yourself is like, well, do you think it's going to go up in the future? Do you think we're at about 36,900, and it trended down a little bit, like $1,000 or so over the past day. So like not a ton of action. It seems like there's kind of a holding pattern, and we're entering into Memorial Day weekend. So there's all that kind of stuff that's going on that could influence. But the question you have to say is like in 5 years, do I think 37,000 is going to be a good price or not, right? Is it going to be more or less than that in a year? But you should probably, like, when it comes to something like Bitcoin, in any of these investments, you should be investing long term, right? Especially now, because cryptocurrencies are assets, right? You get taxed when you buy and sell these assets. So you may make a $10,000 profit, but depending on your tax bracket, it may cost you anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 or more dollars, depending on your location. And so you're accelerating a tax bill that you don't necessarily have to accelerate by buying and selling and buying and selling. Now, there is an interesting argument to be made that with cryptos, you can sell at a loss. Like if the market's crashing, you can actually sell at a loss and then buy back in at a lower price immediately, and you can count those losses as part of like as a loss for your taxes. And so that's actually an interesting strategy that I've thought about or interesting thing, like the market crashed right around when taxes were due. Theoretically, you could have sold, right? So, say you sold at 40,000 your Bitcoin and just waited till it goes lower. Well, you could buy back in lower that same amount of money, and you'd have a better position going up, and you'd have a loss to put on your taxes to offset, to give you some tax incentives. So there's some things like that at play, but that's again trying to time the market, and that can create its whole whole host of issues. So what would I recommend you doing now? What do I do? I think deploying a ton of capital, like if you have $1,000, right, non-financial advice, you don't have to put it all in the market today. But putting some in today, right, Bitcoin under 37,000, not a bad deal. Back in February and March, we thought that you'd never see 30,000 Bitcoin again, and so that's totally possible. We may never see this again. It may go a little bit lower. People don't think it's going to go down to like 19 or 15, like. That seems out of the realm of possibility, because if Bitcoin does, then either the whole crypto market dies for a while, or another crypto asset has to take over, something like Ethereum and something like that. And if that happens, then the chances of Bitcoin surviving or the market surviving in general is very, very low, because the amount of money that's invested in it and something like that, unless you have enough money invested in the newcomer and it makes a very clear flippening, then it's just gonna like create a traffic jam, a roadblock for getting any sort of extra money, institutional money in there, because they're gonna be like, whoa, we have to reevaluate all of our risk assessments and all of our projections, because now a new asset's the one that's in play because Bitcoin's not in play. So chances of that happening are probably low. Can't predict the future, but what I would do is, you don't have to actually buy. You don't have to buy in. You can wait. You can just hang out. But just understand, like if the market moves, don't FOMO in. Just stick to your plan. Be like, look, I'm just gonna wait for the weekend, and whatever the price is, that's what I'll get it at. Or hey, I'm a dollar cost average in something for the weekend. I'll instead of going and buying a pack of beer, I'll take that 10, 20, $30, and I'll put it in Bitcoin, or I'll put it in this other coin that I believe in is undervalued, and that doesn't matter what happens over the weekend. If it goes up or down, doesn't matter. I think it's undervalued in the long term. And again, so long-term perspective, don't try to time the market. Don't be too stressed about it. Don't be like watching the price signals all day, every day, because that's just gonna Michael Saylor said something along the lines, and I need to stop referencing Michael Saylor in every video, but he's got a lot of good information. But he said something along the lines of look, if you take a microscope and look at something every minute of every second of every minute of every hour of every day, you're gonna find things wrong with it. You're gonna find things that bother you. You're gonna be stressed out. But if you zoom out, right, and you zoom out and look at the market, look at what it's done, look at the projections, look at the macro news, there's a ton of bullish stuff. We're up still on the year, right? A significant amount, more than any other asset class. Over the past year, I think the return is insane. Bitcoin last March was dropped down to $3,800, and it was around 10,000 before it took off. So we're at $37,000, and people are like, oh my gosh, it's dead, it's over. It's a year ago, it was at 10, right? It went down to 3,800. So we're 10 times more than that low point, at our low point right now in this year. So it's you gotta put things in perspective. And if you look at all the bullish indicators, like PayPal is allowing you to withdraw your cryptos. That's very bullish. Venmo just allows you to buy, has started to allow you to buy cryptos. Super bullish. You get investment firms, they are allowing their clients to invest in crypto. They're and you're getting pushback from a lot of the old guard, like Jamie Dimon. I saw an article about he's the CEO of JP Morgan, and he's been famously against crypto, against Bitcoin for years. But those same type of people that have been in these positions, that have done this certain job this certain way and have these certain fundamentals and things that they look at for years, and that obviously create a lot of success for them. You saw this with social media. You saw this with the internet, right? You saw these old traditional companies, these old traditional people not embrace it because it's not their bread and butter, and they're older. They don't need to embrace Bitcoin. Jamie Dimon doesn't need to embrace Bitcoin to be fine in his life. He's done his work. Unless he's trying to get another boost to his legacy or something like that, it doesn't matter for him. So for a lot of these people that are older in these positions, it's they've done their work. So they're not gonna pay attention to this. Warren Buffett, he didn't care about Bitcoin. He's got his stuff that works, and he's old enough that's not on his plate. So I see that as good news, that this is still transformational, And it's stuff that like, even though these old guys are like, whatever, I'll just let it in. That attitude of like, I'm not gonna push it away, but I'm gonna still allow it, is more adoption for the industry, more adoption for cryptos. So with that, that's all I got today. So with that, like, subscribe, and have a great weekend. Peace.